Thank you very much, Ciara. Thank you, Minister. It's good to see you here, and we all very much appreciate your time. I asked for this commencement matter due to the frustration and worries of the parents of children with special needs and also with additional needs. Minister, you are well aware that they are at their wits' end. The parents are looking at their children's development regressing, their ability to behave socially has been affected, and they are struggling to cope. The stories I have heard are devastating. We were all very glad to hear the announcement that special needs classes and schools would be reopening, and I wholeheartedly commend your really incredible hard work and dedication on this. However, the phased day on, day off, 2 days in school, 1 week, 3 days the next, these methods are not sustainable for many students. It is causing havoc for some children. Some don't have the same understanding of time, and it is difficult for them to understand why their bus comes one day and not the next, when they are so much used to going back to school on a 5-day basis. I know, Minister, it is the government's goal to get these children back into full-time education. However, what is troubling for so many is that they do not know when this so-called normality will resume. I appreciate and know the government worked incredibly hard to reopen schools sooner, and as these schools are deemed as an essential service. These classes in schools are so much more than education. Only time and retrospect will inform us of the full damage these closures have caused. However, there has been very compelling research to date on the damage it has caused to our children, and in particular our special needs children. In relation to special schools, one parent has said that her child can't cope with the 1 day in and then a long break due to the midterm and a possible disruption in routine. Another parent is facing the issue of her child being totally confused and upset with the starting and stopping. Another parent finding her child very upset on his days off, and online learning is making him worse. Another parent faces an issue of their special needs child being put on medication to help with the anxiety levels and behaviour because of the lockdowns and not being able to go to school. Since returning to school this year, his medication had to be increased, as returning to school 1 day a week was completely out of his routine. Another parent is dealing with his child being very settled in the days he's in school. However, on the days off, he is very disruptive. In relation to, I have heard also from parents on special needs classes that they are also being asked to do a phased reopening. I would like to know, has this been permitted in the guidance, and is it up to each school to individually decide? There is a situation that parents returning next week are coming up with some issues. One example of a child returning to his ASD unit on Monday, but only from 9 a.m. to 10:40, even though the child usually is in from 9 a.m. to 2:40. Many parents are being offered shorter days. This is not full return. Again, Minister, is there guidelines or is there medical evidence that state that this is best? It goes without saying that this is very straining for both parents and their children. It's very straining for teachers also, and I do understand and appreciate this. I also want to note on regards to the additional needs, children with additional needs, where are they and the entire scheme of return, and what extra resources are going to be put in place for these children when they return to school? Finally, Minister, to summarise the issue, I just want to know when our special needs schools and classes will return to full capacity. I worry for many families, and particularly the children. They have been out of school, out of society, and not reaching their potential for so long now. They have not been comfortable in their own skin and their own ability, because of the school closures. Parents are tired, Minister, as you very well know, because you have been at the front line of this. And I would really like to give these families, these children, some answers today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator McGreehan. Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Senator Erin McGreehan, for your question. My department is obviously, and as I am myself, very conscious of the fact that schools being closed has hugely adverse consequences at an individual, family and societal level, and that the effect on children with special educational needs, we all know, can be even greater. And it's my and Minister Foley's strong preference that all students would return to school at the earliest opportunity in March, in line with public health advice. And under the framework recently agreed with teachers' unions and school management, an initial phased return of children in special schools and special classes is already underway, with children in special schools having returned on a 50% basis, which you spoke about, from the 11th of February, and children in special classes in mainstream primary and post-primary schools making a full return from the 22nd of February, which is next Monday. But dialogue is continuing with our education partners at primary and post-primary level in relation to a full reopening of schools. And this has been informed by engagement with the Department of Health, whose analysis in terms of the current disease levels have advised that a cautious, phased approach should continue to be developed. And that is what has happened thus far. And they have reaffirmed their view that schools in themselves are low-risk environments. And we know this from before, from NPHET's advice, from Dr. Abigail Collins and from Dr. Kevin Kelleher, and indeed from Philip Nolan, who has always maintained that schools are safe environments once the schools themselves put in place their own infection control measures which need to be done. This approach will see schools reopening in line with public health advice and ensure that all schools can reopen safely and at the earliest opportunity in March. And because we recognise, Senator, that remote learning is particularly challenging for students with complex needs. And because of this, the Department of Education has put in place a supplementary programme to support the education and/or the care needs of students with complex needs at primary and post-primary level. And this programme of in-person support is intended to supplement the teaching and learning provided by the students' school and alleviate the impact of this period of school closure through the provision of 5 hours per week in-person teaching or care support to be delivered in homes for up to 4 weeks. So there is a support there. We recognise that it's not sufficient, but it's something to try and help and tackle this regression. I'm struck by what you said around anxiety and behaviour, and obviously some children having to increase their education, which is not what anybody wants. And you talk about families being at their wits' end, and being devastated. I'm equally as devastated that we can't. If I had a magic wand, I would have all children back in school from today or from tomorrow. That's simply not possible when we're dealing with many constituent parts within the education sector, and we also have to take public health advice into account. So everybody is working towards this continued phased reopening, and we have already, as I said, had some success in terms of special schools. Even if they are at 50%, we hope to get them to 100% as soon as practical and as soon as possible, because it's really important that all children get their education in an in-person way and in an in-school environment, because it's extremely difficult for everybody. So you can rest assured, Senator, that I and the government is determined to have schools reopen for students once it is fully safe to do so, and once we have the agreement of all of our education partners in order to achieve that.
Thank you, Minister Madigan. Senator McGreehan, you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I absolutely, I know that you'd have, if you click your fingers, we would all have our children back to school. I suppose part of my question or my thought process in relation to this would be to the special classes, and it has seen there is a very individual school level approach to this with the reduction of hours that has been provided. And I suppose what do parents do if they're told that they're supposed to get their child back to full time when they're not getting an hour and 40 minutes is certainly not full time for next week for special classes. So I suppose it's to work on that and see is there a way to get around that if there is a school basis, a school issue. Can they contact the department to see, what can the department do if there's extra help to be put in places there to make sure there are full classes back at school next week? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. It's important to note that guidance has gone out to all schools in terms of how they should be catering for children with special education needs, and some of the requirements set out are regular engagement with pupils and students, a blend of guided and independent learning tasks, appropriate and engaging learning opportunities, two-way feedback between home and school, and obviously supports that are there as well. And there are also obviously supports with the NCSE. But clearly, it's something that is a relationship between all parties. The 50% it is up to the schools to decide how they administer that, because obviously we can't be too prescriptive, and the school knows best, its principal, its teachers, its SNAs, how it can work out a 50% phased approach. But we would obviously ask for fairness in relation to that, and they have the guidance set out very clearly until we can get back to 100% reopening, and indeed to get SEN and mainstream back as soon as we possibly can into regular education. Thank you.